The next thing I want to talk about is creating actual transformation of components. So here's a prime example. I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to hit play, and you're going to see that, you know, the arm moves up, and then the elbow bends, and then the bucket bends, and then it's going to rotate the whole thing around. So it's almost like pretending like it's scooping up some dirt, and then it's going to move it over and drop it somewhere else. Okay, so how did we go about doing this? Okay, this is all with the transform components. So kind of cool. You can actually simulate how things would physically move. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to come in here, and under transform, I'll click on transform components, and it's asking for components. Now, I can do them individually, but that would be extremely painful. So again, here is where the organization of your structure really does help. So the first thing I want to do is move the arm. So I'm going to go ahead and click on arm, and you'll notice that it's selected all of the components that are underneath arm. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead, now it's asking for a pivot. Now this is where I was talking about earlier, it doesn't have any joints. It doesn't know where to pivot. And you'll notice I don't even have, well, I guess I have my triad way down here. But if I were to start to rotate, you'll see that that does not make sense, right? So I have to do a little bit of manual labor here. So what I'm going to do is rotate around a little bit and click on this set pivot icon. And then I'm going to get kind of near where I want it to pivot, and you'll see there's like a little plus symbol right there. If I move kind of away, there's a little tiny plus symbol. That's the center of that circle. So I'm just going to get near there, and it's going to snap to that. So I'm going to click on it, and here's the thing you have to remember. You have to say, okay, I'm done setting my pivot. So I'm going to click on done, and now my pivot is right there on the arm, and if I were to rotate this, we can see that it's going to rotate that whole arm at that pivot point. Okay, so let's just go ahead and maybe move it up like so. I'll say okay, and now we can see a new thing in our timeline. It took about 3 seconds. And it's basically saying arm. Okay, so let's go maybe 2 more seconds. I'll say transform move. What are the components? I'm going to open up the arm, and this time I'm going to say the wrist and the bucket. I want to rotate both of those guys. I'll set my pivot just like before. I'll kind of zoom up here, click on that little plus icon. I'm not worrying about my camera angles or anything like that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and rotate that down. I'll say okay, and watch what happens to my timeline when I say okay. We now see that starting at second 3 to second 6, both the wrist and the bucket are moving. Okay, now I want to rotate the cab, and let's say we want to do the cab in about 2 seconds. So I'll say transform components. Let's do the cab, but I also want the arm to go with it. So I'm going to control select the arm subassembly. So all of this stuff is going to move. Well, now I need to set the pivot. And unfortunately, I can't see where to pivot around. So what I'm going to do is actually turn off the cab. Let's open up the base here a little bit. I'm just going to turn off that last part there, and now we can see the actual little Lego piece that allows it to rotate. So I'm going to click on that guy, say OK. Zoom back out of here a little bit. Let's turn the cab back on. And now I'm going to rotate. And we can see that the whole cab is rotating. Let's do something like that, and I'll say okay. And we'll see something was added to the arm. If I scroll down, we can see something's added to the cab. And then you'll notice another icon that appeared, and it has a little light bulb icon on it. And this is the show hide. So you can actually have parts turn on or turn off in your animation at a particular time. And the reason this was automatically recorded is because I turned that off and so it recorded that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I don't need that action in there.